Right, this is the first in a few little incidental videos that I thought I'd do, just jobs that may well be so straightforward no one else has put them on YouTube to show you how to do it. No, it's not washing the car, though I have just done that, so it's all drying. And while it does, one of the things that I accidentally broke when I did the recommission, because I was being a bit overzealous trying to clean bits and pieces, and there were loads of leaves, still probably are quite a few in these vents, still a few in there, the ones that haven't blown and showered me with sort of old leaves. Must have sat under a silver birch, I think, this 240. So I used to have a Volvo 850, and with that, to get the vents out, you basically turn them till they sort of stopped, and then you pulled them and they just unclipped. Doesn't work like that in the 240, as I realised when I pulled it too far, too heavy-handed, and I actually must have broken one of the clips. So how do you get that vent out? Well, the answer is actually sort of shockingly simple, and I only know this because I bought a spare vent. I also managed to break one of the central ones, so I'll be doing that as well. You can see there are some holes. I think it's just the one in the middle which we actually need to undo, the Torx, and that sits underneath the open slider, open close slider. So I've invested in some trim removal tools, and if you just carefully place that underneath, you can see there's a bit of a gap. You can see where this piece of trim sits. You just carefully get in behind the well, say carefully, it was not held on as much as I thought. It just unlevers, you see, and sure enough, it's not a Torx, it's just a normal is that a Phillips sort of cross-headed screw. So I'm just going to undo that, replace the vent, and actually get the hoover out. And I can still see, don't know if the camera's picking up, the light on. There's some leaves still under there, so we'll have a bit of a clean out there. As far as undoing this vent goes, well, let's have a look at what to expect. So can we tell anything from what we've got here? Okay, so let's have a look. What's the orientation of this? So we've got it sits that way up. Looks about right, doesn't it? No screw this side, but behind the cover under the clock, we'll talk a bit more about what I'm going to potentially do with that cover, because I've got an idea for another video. There's a hole, so I reckon behind that blank, we prise that off carefully. We should be able to get to the screw and undo the lower or central vent. So I'll get on and have a go at that. Okay, we've got it out, and you can see that was what was lurking behind. Now, tricky thing with that wasn't actually finding the screw at all, as I initially thought it might be. On top, you've got these little tabs. Probably easier if I show you on the nice and clean one. What you have to do is just turn that light off. You have to sort of try and push these down as you're sliding it up under this top piece. We tried a selection of tools. Big screwdriver too big, small one not quite the right angle, so I used the old trusty, well, the lever I call it. Just worked carefully. I've done it without damaging anything. So we'll give this a really good clean up, and then we'll try and just feed in the new vent. It was a bit stuck, this one. It took a bit of encouragement, a bit of wiggling. Just took my time, probably because there's quite a lot of grit and stuff in there. It's never been out, I wouldn't imagine. So anyway, that's one done, or half done. Okay, so the new vent's in place. I've just done the screw up. It seems to be home. Just need to pop the little bit of trim back on. It just pops on there. I undid the three clips that hold the the carpet, just so really I could reach under here and get to the back of the tubing which the vent sits in, just to make sure I could push the vent this way and also push the tubing onto it the other way. The only thing that came off, and this may have been what was causing a bit of resistance from the old vent, was actually on the ducting. It's a little staple. I don't think I can get that back in. I don't think it's needed. So there you go. Okay, so as mentioned, that's one vent done, and let's move on and try and have a go at this one. I know it looks okay, but I did the old, I don't know why I did this on the other vent. It should stop there. I managed to break it. Oh well. We have a replacement, which is all nice and clean. And as I mentioned, this blanking plate here, we're just going to, I've got the trim removal tool just placed in there, and I think if we, yeah, that's loose now, just pop that off. Let's have a look and see what we find, because I've got some ideas for what we could do here. So the blanking plate comes out, we can have a little bit of a clean up in here. Looks like, yeah, I'm hoping that would accept another 52mm gauge, but that's for another day. Oh, look at what we've just found. We've found our screw. So I'll undo that and see whether this slides out, or if we have a little bit of toing and froing to try and release it. Wasn't going to take the radio out, however I might do at some point. One of the other things I'd like to do is get some extra power in here. I don't really want to rely on my little USB plug-in doodah. I like that for the reason that you've got the voltage readout, so I've tended to have that in there. It's a nice little device, but I quite like some power which is hardwired in. Fuse box is the obvious choice, although because this is got the old round ceramic, I think they're ceramic, the fuses, you know, the ones that are like this, the sort of the fuse kits that you can get, which you sort of remove a fuse and it gives you the wiring to plug in whatever else you want, isn't compatible, I don't believe, with this, so need to think of something else. But anyway, that's for another day probably. Let's crack on and have a go at this vent. Right, good news, this one seems to have just come straight out with a few little tugs. So undone the screw. I just heard something fall out there. Am I celebrating too soon? Okay, let's have a look in there. That's absolutely filthy, as you'd expect. Let's get some light. What have we got in here? Oh, interesting. That was what was rattling. So there's a little clip, maybe. Okay, right, we'll work out how that goes. We probably ought to put that back. Looks like it might be important. And nothing else that's loose in there, I don't think, apart from all the leaves. So I'll have a little hoover out, I think, and get the new one in. Right, I don't know where that clip goes. If you know, please drop a comment and let me know. That's bad, but I've got this home. I don't think it's loose. Well, we'll find out when we go for a drive if it's rattling around like crazy, but I've hoovered out, cleaned inside the vent, ducting, got the new vent in. So we now have a set of unbroken vents. I might have a go at just cleaning that one out. That's the remaining original one, which I didn't touch. And while I've got the blanking plate out, I'm going to do some research for a future video. More on that later.